Well, here we are again, folks, and I'm going to get now into the Lord's Prayer. Now, if you have to look at the excerpt before this one in order to see where I had started in the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is a prayer that the Lord taught the disciples, and this is what he said. First thing he said, now it's in Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 6, and if you're not really familiar with the Bible, some of you are, some of you aren't. If you're not, in the Bible that you have, you need a King James Version. And you'll see that in this, if you're in a red letter edition, you have red letters. Well, red letters are the very words that Jesus spoke. Now, people who are ardent Bible studiers and Christians and faith people like sometimes to let their intellect run away with them and everything, and they say, well, you don't have to read just the red word. Jesus said it all. Well, he did. But he also said this with his very mouth, God in the flesh, walking on the earth. He was a person who spoke words just like we do. He was not a spirit. He was a body, soul, and spirit. He was here on the earth just like other men, tempted as all men were by the very devil that tempts us, that fell from heaven. The devil met Jesus like on several occasions, face to face, and talked with him when he came down after fasting 40 days, said, if you'll take these stones, turn them into bread, I'll give you this place, and all that. And Jesus spoke with the devil several times. And by the way, everything in this Bible, Jesus didn't say it, because when Jesus spoke to the devil and the devil spoke back, the devil was speaking then. And those are the devil's words. And you can't take the devil's words and make them the Lord's words. They were the devil's words. So when you study, and let's be realistic this morning, and let's not get carried away with intellect. Intellect's a bad, it can be, intellect's a very good thing, can be a good thing, but also can be a bad thing. I have to stutter at this because I've seen it happen. I have seen it happen. I have seen a young man who started following the Lord, and he really got a hold, and then he went off to school, and when he came back, he was not the same man anymore. He would have been better to stayed in stupidity and believe the facts than to get intellectually smart and leave the facts of the Word behind him. Hey, the facts of the Word are not by intellect. Jesus said he took the foolish things of the world and made them wise. And like me, I'm not educated. I am self-educated. I have had to get in here and do it myself. I have no PhD, DD, I have nothing. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you the truth. The intellectual side of Christianity has not used me for years. My thought through the years was, if a preacher doesn't say to you, I'm going to send you over here to preach today, or I'm going to use you over here, it was not my duty to step up and say, I want to go there, I want to do this. It was up to the preacher to use me. Preachers have not used me because I have no education. And if I did have an education, I would say to you this morning, I do not have an education. Why they wouldn't use me? Not that I have no education. I don't know English. I don't know nouns, pronouns, all that stuff. I'm telling you that you don't have to be an intellect to follow Jesus. You know what you have to be intellectually in this Word. If you're in this Word, you're an intellect in the Word. And an intellect in the Word doesn't necessarily have to be an intellect improper. Now, our preacher said the other day, he said, you know what? We have dwelt and been on politically correct so long that we have forgot the Word. And we have been on educationally correct so long we forgot the Word. Now, I would have been on the road many, many, many years ago. I tried to get into college. I tried and I tried and I tried. No college would have me because I didn't have a high school education. I don't know why a man would have to have a high school education to go to college. Why can't you skip high school and go to college? Because they felt like that if you didn't have the intellect at that college of knowing the proper English and the proper grammar and the proper this and the proper that, you couldn't preach. That's a falsehood. That's a false teaching. A very false teaching. You do not have to have all that to teach this gospel. This gospel is not taught by intellect. It's taught by spirituality. You do not teach the gospel of Jesus Christ, nor do you understand it by intellect. You teach it by the Holy Spirit. You understand it through the Holy Spirit. And it's all through the Holy Spirit. It has nothing to do with intellect. You do not have to know how to read if you can get this on tape or on record or on disc and put it in your ear. You can hear it, and God can speak to you through it, and you can turn around and you can preach it. You don't have to even know how to read. And so it's not my intellect. I'm here to tell you it's not my intellect. I want to know how many prophets in the Old Testament that prayed and stopped the sun, stopped the moon, prayed and stopped the river, prayed and the ocean opened, and prayed and did this and prayed and did that. And where'd they go to school? I'd like to know what college they went to. I'd like to know where they graduated from. I'd like to know where Peter went to school. I do know this, that Paul, for a time, sat under Gamaliel and learned a whole lot of stuff that helped him do the writing of the New Testament. But how many of you are writing New Testament books? How many of you needed what Paul needed to do what he did? And by the way, Paul had some backing up to do. Paul needed 3 years to think about what he had done. He had killed hundreds and thousands of Christians, and now he had to do some repenting, some thinking. And Peter went over there, and Jesus sent him over there to tell Paul. So you go tell Paul the things he's going to have to suffer to serve me because of what he had done. He didn't say because of what he had done. I added that. But that is a fact. Paul had done all those things. So therefore, when Paul was hanging in chains and he was suffering, it wasn't hard for him to sing praises unto God in a sense. The sense is that he could look back in his mind and say, I'm hanging in these chains I put other men in. I'm feeling now the pangs that I put on them. Because I did this. I put men in stocks. I put men in jail. I put them in prison. I put them in the lions, in front of the lion. I had them stoned to death. I was standing there when they stoned Stephen to death. And Stephen said, lay not this to their charge. Now, I have this real vivid picture in my mind now, and this is beautiful, and it's not factual. It's Brother Peter speaking. And this is something, a picture I have in my mind. That here's Stephen, he's done been stoned to death. He steps up before God, and Jesus is standing there, and Jesus said to Stephen, he said, hey, Stephen, what would you have me to do to Saul down there, who had you stoned to death? And Stephen said, well, in mercy's sake, and in grace, and let's go down there and save the guy. What a joke. He said, let's go save the guy. And Jesus comes down in flash. He visits Paul on that donkey he's riding. And when Jesus flashes by, the lightning, the lightning, put your eyes out. Put Paul's eyes out. You can't stand it when Jesus flashes by. He'll blind you. And he blinded me to the world and opened my eyes to the Word. Blinded me to the world, opened my eyes to the Word. How about that deduction? Anyway, listen. He blinded Paul, and then it was comical to me. Read it like a novel, but a true novel. And a little later, he sends him over to Cornelius' house, and that's a joke. Cornelius is not a Jew; he's a Gentile. And Jesus is doing something here. He's switching things around now, and he sends Peter over there. And what did he send Peter over there to do? He said, "You go over there and tell that guy Saul, who is now Paul. I'm naming him Paul. The things he's got to suffer to serve me." Ha ha ha! He had been making everybody else suffer. Now he had to suffer the same things he'd been making everybody else suffer. Being thrown in jail time and time again, being cast in the sea, staying in the deep 2 or 3 days, and being whipped, dipped, all these things that he had happened to him, he'd done to other people. But you know what? It's like I said before, I wouldn't do away with none of the bad things that happened to me because they were for an example for me to see so I could help somebody else. That's why Paul had the power he had. That's why he could stay in there. That's why he could do what he could do, because he had done it to other people, and now he knew he had to suffer the same pangs, which was what he dealt, he got. What goes around comes around.